The yokai, an incredibly diverse group of creatures and demons from Japanese folklore. These are supernatural beings who walk the thin line between the ethereal beauty and the haunting darkness of our world. Among this group, the female yokai stand out as being incredibly beautiful and hauntingly terrifying. In Japan, coast to coast and mountains to forest, these yokai terrorized, loved, and assisted people from all walks of life. Join us as we delve into the realm of these ethereal beings, where beauty intertwines with horror, and where every story holds a lesson about the complexities of life, love, and vengeance. Just as a heads up, the kitsune will not be included in this video, since I already have a whole video on them. Link in the top right-hand corner. Without further ado, this is 10 hauntingly beautiful female yokai from Japanese folklore. Yuki Onna, the Snow Woman. In the heart of winter's embrace, where the snow blankets the earth, the Yuki Onna or Snow Woman stalks her prey. This yokai is a vision of otherworldly beauty. She possesses hair as dark as the night sky and eyes that pierce through the blizzard's veil. Her skin, untouched by age, rivals the snow itself in its purity, yet her touch is death, a cold so penetrating that it steals the very warmth of life. The Yuki Onna preys on those lost within the snowstorms of the Japanese Alps, a silent huntress near mountain paths, laying wait for weary travelers. Her method is merciless. With an icy breath, she draws the life force from her victims, leaving them frozen statues in her wake. She is also said to follow travelers, breaking into their homes at night and flash freezing the inhabitants. Yet, within this spectral figure lies a paradox. She harbors the capacity for love, so profound that it can stay her hand. Legends tell of Yuki Onna who have spared their intended victims, and some have even taken human husbands, attempting to live out mortal lives. These unions, however, are doomed. The passage of time unveils her true nature, shattering the fragile veneer of normalcy and ending their shared happiness. One such tale recounts an elderly man running an inn with his wife in Niigata. A young woman, beautiful and alone, sought refuge one snowy night. She warmed herself by the fire and ate with the innkeeper and his wife. She was sweet and charming and extremely beautiful. So, it was a surprise when, in the middle of the night during a fierce blizzard, she stood up and proceeded to leave the inn. The innkeeper told her not to go outside and took her hand to hold her back. It was as cold as ice. Merely touching it sucked all the warmth from the innkeeper's body. As he tried to keep the girl in the house, her entire body turned into a fine icy mist and shot up the chimney and out into the night. Another story speaks of a man from Yamagata who claimed a Yuki Onna as his wife. His wife was beautiful, with piercing eyes and skin as white as a marble statue. While he loved to take long hot baths every night, his wife always refused to bathe. This was very concerning. One particularly cold and snowy night, he insisted that his wife take a bath, fearing that she would freeze to death in the cold. She protested, but there was no reasoning with the man. Finally, she acquiesced. When he went in to check on her a few minutes later, all he found in the tub were half-melted icicles. Kuchisaké Onna, the slit-mouthed woman. Shrouded in darkness, the Kuchisaké Onna or slit-mouthed woman wanders, her presence a chilling echo of a life marred by violence. She is the ghost of a woman who was once beautiful, but now bore the grotesque mark from her mutilation, a mouth slit from ear to ear. She haunts the dimly lit places and alleyways in order to wreak vengeance on the world. She appears at night to lone travelers on the road, covering her grisly mouth with a cloth mask, a fan, or a handkerchief. Her approach is as sinister as her intent. To those she encounters, she poses a deceptively simple question: "Am I beautiful?" If the victim answers yes, she pulls off her mask and reveals a red, blood-dripping, grotesque mouth. Then she asks in a grisly voice if they still think she is beautiful. If her victim answers no or screams in terror, she slashes him from ear to ear in an imitation of her own mutilation. If he lies and answers yes a second time, she walks away only to follow her target home and slaughter him brutally that night. Her origins are as tragic as her existence. They are the spirits of the dead who were killed in particularly violent manners, such as abused wives, tortured captives, and defeated enemies, and who often do not rest well. The Kuchisaké Onna is thought to be one such woman. However, during the Edo period, a large number of Kuchisaké Onna attacks were blamed on shape-changed kitsune playing pranks on young men. During the 20th century, the blame began to be placed on ghosts, serial killers, and simple mass hysteria. This resulted in an explosion of Kuchisaké Onna sightings over Japan. Over the years, clever young people claim to have outsmarted Kuchisaké Onna by delivering quick, confusing answers, or by throwing money or hard candy at them. This buys enough time to escape from the Kuchisaké Onna's wrath and lose her in the darkness. Rokurokubi, the long-neck yokai. By day, they walk among us indistinguishable from any other beautiful woman. But as night descends, the Rokurokubi reveal their true form. As their bodies fall asleep, their necks stretch to incredible lengths, allowing them to continue exploring, preying, and instilling fear. Their appetites vary from regular foods consumed by humans and the blood of small animals, to the oil lamps, where they would use their incredible long tongues to lick up the oil. Their intent behind this is to satiate their hunger and to disturb the peace of those around them. Unlike most yokai, which are born as monsters, Rokurokubi are former humans, who were transformed by a curse resulting from some evil action or misdeed. Perhaps they sinned against the gods or nature, or perhaps they were unfaithful to their husbands. In many cases, however, their husbands or fathers were the ones who actually committed the sin, and by some cruel twist of fate, the men escaped punishment and the women received the curse instead, which explains why the Rokurokubi curse only affects women. There are many tales about the Rokurokubi. One such tale involves a lord who noticed that the oil in his lamps was vanishing at an alarming rate. Because of this, he suspected one of his servant girls might be a Rokurokubi. He decided to spy upon the girl. After she had fallen asleep, he crept into her room and watched over her. Soon he noticed vapors and ectoplasm forming around her chest and neck. A little while later, the servant girl rolled over in her sleep. However, only her body moved. The head stayed in its place, and the neck lay stretched out between the two. The next day, he fired her. She was fired from every place at which she subsequently worked. The poor girl never understood why she had such bad luck with her employment. It appears that not all Rokurokubi are aware of their curse, as she never found out that she was one of them. Another old tale from Tatami province tells of a monk who eloped with a young lady named Oyotsu. While traveling, Oyotsu became sick. Treating her would have used up all of their travel money, so instead of ending up poor, the monk murdered Oyotsu and stole the remaining money. On his travels, he stayed at an inn owned by a man with a beautiful daughter. The wicked monk shared a bed with the innkeeper's daughter, and during the night, her neck stretched and her face changed into that of Oyotsu. She angrily accused him of murdering her. The next morning, the monk, regretting his evil deeds, confessed the murder of Oyotsu to the innkeeper. The monk also told the innkeeper what he had seen the night before. The innkeeper confessed that he too had murdered his wife for her money. He used the money to build his inn, and as a punishment, his own daughter was transformed into a Rokurokubi. Afterwards, the monk rejoined his temple, built a grave for Oyotsu, and prayed for her soul every day. What happened to the innkeeper's daughter is never mentioned. Futakuchi Onna, the two-mouthed woman. In households where food mysteriously vanishes and the women consume nothing, the presence of a Futakuchi Onna, the two-mouthed woman, might be suspected. Seemingly normal at first glance, these beautiful women harbor a secret that lies hidden beneath their flowing hair. A second mouth grotesquely alive with lips, teeth, and a tongue, all ravenous and unyielding. This second mouth feeds voraciously, using the woman's hair as tentacles to seize food, consuming far more than any ordinary person could. In the folktales of Japan's eastern regions, Futakuchi Onna are most often thought to be shapeshifted Yama-uba, an old mountain witch, posing as young women. In the western regions, they are frequently shapeshifted kumo, or magical spiders. Other origin stories state that these women were cursed for their greed or wickedness, or as transformations brought about by profound envy. Yet, regardless of their origins, the Futakuchi Onna are unified in their true nature, to serve as a punishment upon the greedy men or women for wickedness and extreme frugality. One story tells of how in a small rural village in Fukushima, there lived a stingy miser. Because he could not bear the thought of paying for food to support a family, the miser lived entirely by himself. One day he met a woman who did not eat anything at all, and he immediately took her for his wife. The miser was thrilled with her because she never ate a thing and was still a hard worker. However, his stores of rice steadily decreased, and he could not figure why, for he never saw his wife eat. One day, the miser pretended to leave for work. In truth, he stayed behind to spy on his new wife. As the miser watched from a hidden location, his wife untied her hair and revealed a second mouth on the back of her head, complete with ghastly lips and teeth. Her hair reached out with tentacle-like stalks and began to scoop rice balls into the second mouth, which cooed out with pleasure in a vulgar, raspy voice. The miser was horrified and resolved to divorce his wife as soon as possible. However, she learned of his plan before he could act on it, and trapped him in a bathtub and carried him off into the mountains. The miser managed to escape. He hid in a heavily scented lily marsh where the Futakuchi Onna could not find him. Another story tells of a wicked stepmother who always gave plenty of food to her own daughter, but never enough to her stepdaughter. Gradually, the stepdaughter grew sicker and sicker until she starved to death. 49 days later, the wicked stepmother was afflicted with a terrible headache. The back of her head split open, and lips, teeth, and a tongue formed. This new mouth ached with debilitating pain until it was fed, and it shrieked in the voice of the dead stepdaughter. From then on, the stepmother always had to feed both of her mouths, and always felt the hunger pangs of the stepdaughter she murdered. Jorōgumo, the Entangling Bride. The Jorōgumo, a creature of exquisite beauty and deadly intent, resides in the realm where the mundane crosses into the mystical. In Japan, some spiders are known to possess amazing supernatural powers. One of these is the Jorōgumo, known as the Golden Orb Weaver in English. The Jorōgumo is the most well-known of the arachnid yokai, and is found all over the Japanese archipelago. Jorōgumo live solitary lives, both as spiders and as yokai. When a golden orb weaver reaches 400 years of age, it develops magical powers and begins to feed on human prey instead of insects. Jorōgumo make their nests in caves, forests, or empty houses in towns. Possessing a cunning intelligence and a cold heart, they see humans as nothing more than insects to feed on. They are skillful deceivers and powerful shapeshifters, usually appearing as young, seductive, and stunningly beautiful women. Jorōgumo's favorite prey are young, handsome men looking for love or other favors. When a Jorōgumo spots a man she desires, she lures him into her home with promises of affection. He is never seen again. Jorōgumo spins silk threads strong enough to ensnare a grown man so that he cannot escape. They also have powerful venom that can slowly weaken a man day by day, allowing the spider to savor her victim's long and painful death. Jorōgumo can control other, lesser spiders, even employing fire-breathing spiders to burn down the homes of any suspicious meddlers. They are such skillful predators that a Jorōgumo can operate like this for years and years, even in the middle of a busy city, piling up hundreds of desiccated skeletons of foolish young men. While in the modern day, Jorōgumo means entangling bride, which is only a cover-up. In its inception, Jorōgumo originally meant whore spider. Nure Onna, the wet woman. Nure Onna, or wet woman, possesses serpent-like bodies and vampiric tendencies. They haunt the shores and rivers, preying on the blood and life force of humans. They are most commonly found on the shores of the island of Kyushu, but there are stories of Nure Onna encounters as far north as Niigata and as far east as Fukushima. Their appearance, a mix of horror and allure, disguises their true nature, allowing them to employ deceit over strength. They often masquerade as distressed, beautiful women, seeking the sympathy of passers-by, only to ensnare them in a deadly grip once their guard is down. There are two variations of this yokai, one without arms, which resembles an enormous sea serpent with a woman's head, and one with human-like arms. Aside from this difference, the two look and act in exactly the same manner. Their faces, though beautiful, are betrayed by their serpent-like features such as a forked tongue. They have long black hair which sticks to their dripping bodies. Their name comes from the fact that they always appear soaking wet. While physically much stronger than a human, Nure Onna prefer not to rely on brute force and use trickery and guile to catch their prey. Their most often tactic is to stay near the water, on a coast, or by a riverbank. They then disguise themselves as a distressed woman carrying a bundled-up baby. They cry out for help from fishers, sailors, or anybody passing by. When the prey approaches, a Nure Onna will plead with their victim to hold her baby for just a moment so that she can rest. If he agrees and takes the bundle, the baby becomes as heavy as a boulder. The victim is unable to move. The Nure Onna is then free to attack her helpless victim, feeding by draining his blood with her long, serpentine tongue. The Nure Onna frequently appear together and cooperate with another yokai, called the Ushi-Oni, as they inhabit the same environments and share the same diet. Tsurara Onna, the Icicle woman. Born from the loneliness of winter and the longing for an eligible bachelor, the Tsurara Onna emerges as a spirit of fleeting connections and inevitable parting. Their appearance, akin to the Yuki Onna, contradicts their warmth, uncharacteristic of their icy origins. It is said that when a man gazes longingly at a strong, beautiful icicle hanging from a roof and reflects upon his loneliness, a Tsurara Onna may appear shortly afterwards. On the surface, a Tsurara Onna appears to be an ordinary though exceptionally beautiful woman. They are very similar in appearance and behavior to Yuki Onna, which inhabit the same areas during wintertime. When the winter snows melt and icicles can no longer be seen hanging from roofs, the Tsurara Onna disappear along with the cold weather. Despite their icy origins, Tsurara Onna can be quite warm and loving spirits. In fact, many stories of Tsurara Onna involve one which has fallen in love with and married a human. These marriages invariably end in tragedy. The beautiful bride inevitably leaves when the spring comes, leaving her mate confused and heartbroken. And any future encounters the following winter usually do not end well for either party. Because they look and behave like ordinary human women, it is often very difficult to identify a Tsurara Onna. One recognizable warning sign is an unwillingness to enter a bath. Occasionally, stories tell of a woman who refuses to take a bath no matter how much her husband pressures her. Eventually, tired of fighting, she relents and enters the bath. When the husband checks on her later, all he sees are a few tiny shards of ice floating in the tub, and his wife is nowhere to be found. There are countless tales of Tsurara Onna. They are found in every region where snow falls, and each one has its own unique twist. However, there are a few common motifs found in most versions of the story. Many of them are similar or even identical to Yuki Onna stories. Themes of love, marriage, and betrayal are common. One iconic example is from Icicle province, modern-day Niigata. A young single man gazed out his window on a cold, snowy night. He sat there, wistfully admiring the lovely winter scene. He wished in his heart that he could find a wife as beautiful as the icicles hanging from his roof. Suddenly, he heard a knock at his door. A woman's voice called out, and it was as beautiful and clear as ice. She asked the man if she could stay the night, since the snowstorm had become too fierce for her to continue traveling. The young man, of course, accepted, and he was delighted to see the woman's face was as beautiful as her voice. He worked hard to make sure her stay was as enjoyable as possible. Months pass, and love blossomed between them, a love as deep and consuming as the winter itself. They marry, promising to be together forever and finding happiness in each other's company. However, the man was oblivious to the inevitable change that was about to come. As spring arrives, she disappears, leaving the young man to face the thaw alone, his heart as empty as the branches that once held icicles. Over time, the young man's broken heart healed, and he remarried a young woman from his village. The following winter, during a snowstorm, the young man found himself looking out the window at the long icicles hanging from his roof. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The woman returns, standing at his doorstep as beautiful as she had always been. Her reappearance brought joy, confusion, anger, and then sorrow, as old wounds are reopened. The man said he searched every day for her, but she vanished without a trace. The woman said that people have different circumstances, but they promised to love each other forever, and yet he had remarried. The beautiful woman left the house with a sad look on her face. The young man started after her when suddenly there was a voice from inside the house. It was his new wife, asking what was going on. He told her it was nothing and to stay inside. The love between the man and the Tsurara Onna, once as solid as the icicles, was now a memory melting away. In a tragic twist of fate, there was a loud crash followed by a shriek near the front of the house. The new wife ran to the front door to see what had happened. There, lying in the front yard, was her husband. He was dead, pierced through the brain by an enormous icicle which had fallen from the roof. Hashihimé, the Lady of the Bridge. Dwelling by the old ancient bridges where history whispers through the steps, the Hashihimé reigned supreme. The Hashihimé, also called the Bridge Princesses, were seen as both goddesses and demons. They were beautiful but extremely jealous individuals. They watched over their domains with a fierce devotion. They were most commonly cloaked in white robes, their faces painted with white paint, and carried candles with them. This was a ceremonial outfit that was used to perform curses on people. If one praises or speaks positively about another bridge while on top of a Hashihime's bridge, or if one recites lines from certain no plays that feature a woman's wrath as the main theme, something terrible is likely to happen to that person. Despite their fearsome nature, they are highly honored by the people who live nearby, and shrines are established in their honor near the bridges they inhabit. In times of war, residents will beseech their local Hashihime to guard the bridge against invaders. In times of peace, Hashihime are goddess of separation and severing, and are asked to aid people in things such as breakups, divorce, and severing bad luck. So strong is their power of severing that it is considered taboo for lovers to pass in front of a Hashihime shrine together, or for wedding processions to pass in front of one. If newlyweds need to cross a bridge inhabited by a Hashihime, they will instead pass underneath it on a boat rather than risk cursing their marriage. The most famous Hashihime story comes from Tsurugi no Maki in the Tale of the Heike, and is retold in the no play Kanawa. A woman visited the Kifune Jinja shrine in Kyoto, filled with rage and jealousy towards her ex-husband, who had thrown her away for another woman. Night after night, she visited the shrine, praying to the gods enshrined there to turn her into a powerful demon. The woman wanted nothing else other than to see her ex-husband destroyed, even at the cost of her own life. After 7 nights of pilgrimage, her prayers were answered. The gods told her that if she immersed herself in the Uji River for 21 nights, she would become a living demon. The woman did as she was told. She donned a white robe and tied her hair up into 5 horns. She painted her face and covered her body in crimson dye. She placed an upturned trivet on her head and attached torches to each foot. She lit a torch on both ends and placed it in her mouth. She immersed herself in the Uji River, and for 21 days she kindled the hatred in her heart. Then, just as the gods told her, after 21 days she transformed into a terrible demon with supreme power. She had become the Hashihime of Uji. That night, her husband awoke from a horrible dream with a premonition of danger. He quickly sought out the famous Abeno Seimei. Seimei recognized the dream as a sign that the man's former wife would come and destroy the couple that very night, and promised to save them. He went to their house, recited magical prayers, and crafted 2 katashiro, magical paper doll representations of the man and his wife, meant to be used as substitutionary targets for the Hashihime's rage. That night, as Seimei had predicted, the demon appeared. She attacked the 2 katashiro instead of the real couple. and Sami's magic worked. Her power was reflected back upon her, and she was driven away. The demon woman, realizing that she could not overcome Saime's magic, vanished, threatening that she would come back another time. Yamahimé, the mountain's mysterious maidens. Deep within the mountains, where civilization fades into the mists, the Yamahimé or mountain princess reside. Although their appearance varies from account to account, they usually take the form of beautiful, long-haired, fair-skinned young women. They usually appear half-naked in tattered rags or in clothing woven from grass or bark, but sometimes they wear 12-layered kimono. Feeding on human blood, they are as merciless as the wilderness they inhabit. Their allure a trap for the unwary. As they dwelled deep in the mountains, far from human settlements, they consumed raw frogs and snakes. However, despite their solitude, they prefer to feed upon human blood. The Yamahimé have beautiful singing voices, and they love to laugh. It is said that those who hear their laughter will die or be driven insane by it. Yamahimé tales are found all over the country, especially in Tohoku, Shikoku, Kyushu, and Okayama. They and similar strange mountain people appear in numerous Edo period and earlier ghost story collections. In one of these tales, a woman who was traveling this road encountered a Yamahimé with tangled hair so long that it touched the ground. The Yamahimé laughed at the woman, and the woman screamed so loudly that the Yamahimé ran off. However, unbeknownst to the woman, her blood had already been drained when the Yamahimé was laughing at her, and she died shortly after. In another tale, in the village of Yoshida on Yakushima, 18 young men climbed to the top of the mountain to make an offering of the year's first harvest to the gods. The sun set before they reached the top, so they decided to spend the night in a mountain hut. Early the next morning, before sunrise, one of the young men woke up to cook rice for the group. He saw a strange woman appear and straddle the men one by one as they slept. The cook hid in the shadows. Before long, all of the young men, except for the cook, were dead, their blood drained away. Umi Nyōbō, the sea wife. Beneath the waves where the ocean's heart beats with a rhythm ancient and deep, the Umi Nyōbō, or sea wife, dwelled. These creatures, half woman, half fish, are the spirits of the sea, their forms a haunting blend of human grace and the wild majesty of the ocean. Their skin is scaly like a fish, and their fingers and toes are webbed like a waterfowl's and resemble fins. Their teeth are sharp and brilliant, like a shark's. They are incredibly strong and very dangerous. Umi Nyōbō spend most of their time in the oceans. However, they are able to survive on land for several days without returning to sea. Umi Nyōbō are often thought to be the reincarnated spirits of women who drowned in the sea. They are also sometimes said to be the wives of Umibozu, another sea yokai. The stories of the Umi Nyōbō are as varied as the seas they inhabit. From the coasts of Shimane to the distant shores of the Sanriku, their tales weave a complex narrative of life, death, and the eternal cycle of the tides. Folk tales from fishing villages describe Umi Nyōbō as fearsome predators who kill and eat humans for pleasure. However, this is not always the case. While they do prey on humans, it appears that they do have a sense of compassion as well, and can occasionally show kindness towards humans. In one tale, 2 fishermen become lost to the sea, leaving their wives to mourn their disappearance. An Umi Nyōbō stumbles upon the bodies of the 2 fishermen and retrieves them. She then disguises herself as a woman and delivers a package to the 2 grieving widows. When the wives opened the packages, inside were the severed heads of their drowned husbands. The women screamed in horror and were so overcome with grief that they threw themselves into the sea and drowned. It is said that afterwards they became Umi Nyōbō themselves. The best-known Umi Nyōbō story comes from the village of Upurui in Shimane. An old man was asked by a friend to house-sit while he was away. The old man had done this many times and was used to it. However, while half dozing, the man suddenly felt the strange sensation that he was being watched. He awoke and looked towards the window, where for a brief moment he caught a glimpse of a pair of strange and unsettling eyes watching him. The eyes quickly vanished into the night after that. The old man felt suddenly overcome with fear. He hid himself in the closet and held his breath. A moment later, the old man heard somebody enter the house. He slid the closet door open a crack and peeked into the room. He saw a woman with long hair, except her body was covered in scales, and she had webbed hands and feet. He realized that the creature who had been watching him was an Umi Nyōbō. The Umi Nyōbō was carrying a red-faced newborn human baby in one arm. The old man watched as she entered the kitchen and began to snoop around. She approached a barrel of pickled fish, which had a heavy stone placed on top of it, to keep the lid sealed. While still carrying the human baby, she effortlessly lifted and tossed away the stone with one hand. She grabbed webbed handful after webbed handful of pickled fish and gleefully swallowed them whole. Her sharp teeth glimmered. When she had eaten all of the fish, she bit into the human baby and quickly devoured that too. The Umi Nyōbō finished up all the remaining bits of pickled fish and human baby, then began to scan the house with her fierce eyes. She was looking for the old man to cleanse her palate. The old man remained hidden, and after a while, the Umi Nyōbō left the house and vanished into the night. As we reach the end of our journey through the mysterious and captivating world of female yokai, it's clear that these entities are much more than mere tales of fear and beauty. Each story, from the frost-kissed Yuki Onna to the enigmatic Umi Nyōbō, carries with it a piece of Japan's rich folklore, reflecting the complexities of human emotions, the natural world, and the unseen forces that shape our lives. These yokai, with their haunting narratives and ethereal presence, serve as a bridge to the past, offering insight into the fears, desires, and moral lessons of those who lived long before us. They remind us of the delicate balance between the known and the unknown, the seen and the unseen, urging us to look beyond the surface and appreciate the depth of our own world. As we conclude this video, let's carry with us not just the chills and thrills of these tales, but also a deeper appreciation for the art of storytelling and the universal truths it unveils. The world of yokai, with all its beauty and terror, invites us to ponder the mysteries of existence and the enduring power of myth to connect us to the very essence of life. Thank you all for watching all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it. What did you think? Did I miss any details? Let me know in the comments below. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, then welcome to the channel. I hope I earned a like and subscription in your eyes. If not, that's okay. I'll keep making videos until I do earn it. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. I truly appreciate all the views, likes, subscriptions, and kind words and messages. Without you, this channel wouldn't be here today. That's it for now. I hope to see you all in the next one.